Hello students, this is Christine Mayque Diampa, your mathematics teacher. So now we will have lesson 2.2, solving quadratic equations by factoring. Solving quadratic equations by factoring is simply applying zero product property, which states that if the product of two real numbers is zero, then either of the two is equal to zero or both numbers are equal to zero. So example, if AB is equal to 0, then either A is equal to 0 or B is equal to 0. So let us have example number 1. So there are many methods in solving quadratic equations by factoring. So I will be teaching you the two easiest method in solving quadratic equations by factoring. So now let us have example number 1. Find the solutions of 3x squared plus 5x plus 2 is equal to 0. So the first method I will be teaching you is the AC method. So the first step is for you to transform the given equation into standard form. And since the given is already in standard form, we can now move on to the next step, which is to multiply the value of A and C. So A times C, or 3 times 2 is equal to 6. We need to find factors of 6 that if added, the result is the value of B, which is 5. So what are those factors that we need to multiply, and then if added, the result is 5? And those factors are 3 and 2. Okay, the next step will be you need to follow this formula. You have to have, the first is ax squared plus the first factor, copy x, plus the second factor, x plus c is equal to 0. Now substitute. A is 3, copy x squared, plus the first factor is 3, copy x, plus 2, the second factor 2, copy x, plus c is equal to 2, is equal to 0. Now, by common monomial factoring, so our resulting equation will become 3x times the quantity of x plus 1 plus 2 times the quantity of x plus 1 is equal to 0. The next step is for you to copy the common factor. The first common factor that we have is x plus 1. So you need to copy that one, and then the remaining factor is 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. Now, using zero product property, so equate the first factor, which is x plus 1 is equal to 0, and then the second factor, 3x plus 2 is equal to 0, and then by addition property of equality, the value of our x now will become x is equal to negative 1 and x is equal to negative 2/3. Check if our answer is correct, we need to have checking. So for the first value of our x, we need to substitute the value of our x negative 2/3 to the original or to the given equation 3x squared plus 5x plus 2 is equal to 0. So by substitution, so 3 times the quantity of negative 2/3 squared plus 5 times the quantity of negative 2/3 plus 2 is equal to 0. Perform the operations. So now we will have 3 times 4 over 9 minus, we will have minus 10 over 3 plus 2 is equal to 0. Multiply or perform the operations. We will now have 4/3 minus 10/3 plus 2 is equal to 0. Combine like terms, we'll now have negative 2 plus 2 is equal to 0. So 0 is equal to 0. Therefore, our first answer, negative 2/3, is correct. So let us have checking for x is equal to negative 1. So substitute -1 for the given or in the given equation 3x squared plus 5x plus 2 is equal to 0. So now perform the indicated operation. So we will now have 3 times 1 minus 5 plus 2 is equal to 0. 3 minus 5 plus 2 is equal to 0. Negative 2 plus 2 is equal to 0. 0 is equal to 0. Therefore, our answer is correct. Therefore, the solutions of 3x squared plus 5x plus 2 equal to 0 are negative 2/3 and negative 1. So now I will be teaching you the second method in solving quadratic equations by factoring. So let us have example number 1. We will have the same given, but we will use different method in solving it. So, by using asterisk method, all you need to do is to create a big asterisk. And then, on the upper part of that, you have to write AC, multiply A times C, the result will become 6. Now, on the lower part, you have to write the value of our B, which is 5. And now, using those numbers, you have to find factors of 6 that if added, the result is 5. So what are those factors? We will have 2 and 3. So you have to write that one on the upper part, 2 and 3. And then below it, we have to write the value of our A, which is 3. So now, disregard the values on the upper and then lower part, which is 6 and 5, you have to see 2/3 and 3 over 3 as a fraction and then simplify that one. So we will have 2/3, the result of that, or that is already simplified. So 2/3 is 2/3, and then we have 3 over 3, the simplified form of that is 1. So that will become our value of x, but don't forget to change the sign. So 2/3 positive, you need to change the sign, it will become 2/3, and then 1 positive 1, change the sign, it will become negative 1. So the value of our x will become negative 2/3 and negative 1. To check if our answer is correct, we need to do the checking. So for x is equal to negative 2/3, substitute that one to the given equation 3x squared plus 5x plus 2 is equal to 0. So by substitution method, our equation will become 2 times negative 2/3 squared plus 5 times the quantity of negative 2/3 plus 2 is equal to 0. And now perform the operation. So now we will have 3 times 4 over 9 minus 10 over 3 plus 2 is equal to 0. Now perform the indicated operation. We will have 4/3 minus 10 over 3 plus 2 is equal to 0. Now perform the indicated operation. Negative 2 plus 2 is equal to 0. 0 is equal to 0. Therefore, negative 2/3 is the correct answer. So let us now check the second value of our x. We have negative 1. So substitute negative 1 in the given equation 3x squared plus 5x plus 2 is equal to 0. So now, by substitution method, we will have 3 times negative 1 squared plus 5 times negative 1 plus 2 is equal to 0. Now, perform the indicated operation. We have 3 times 1 minus 5 plus 2 is equal to 0. So, the resulting equation will become 0 is equal to 0. Therefore, our answer is correct. Therefore, the solutions of 3x squared plus 5x plus 2 equal to 0 are negative 2/3 and negative 1. So now, please take note that even if you have different solution or even if you use different method in solving quadratic equations By factoring, you can arrive to the same answer. For practice, try to solve the following quadratic equations by factoring. You can use any method in solving these equations. Number 1, x squared minus 10x is equal to negative 25. Number 2, 11r plus 15 is equal to negative 2r squared. Number 3, 81 minus 4x squared is equal to 0. So you will be given 5 minutes to answer this one using any method, and then you have to write your answer on your notebook.